We are doing this intro a little differently today. I am coming to you in my natural habitat because we are officially halfway through the light lessons season. We are focusing this week on Perfectly Imperfect, so I'm coming to you as raw as it comes. No makeup, just braids, roots, outside, natural. This is my happy place. So I am so excited. I just wanted to start off this 10th episode by saying how extraordinary it is that you show up each week for yourselves, for me, for each other, and what an incredibly supportive and wonderful light working community you are being for one another. Thank you so much for just being here. I am so excited to share with you this incredible human who I met in the most perfectly imperfect way. COVID hit, I needed some workouts from my home, and I happened to come across this extraordinary teacher named Adrienne Rabena, and I started taking her barre classes. I cannot say enough amazing things about this person. I know that for all of you, you are going to get so much out of this episode just listening to the way that she speaks. She is an extraordinary person in this fitness industry. She is a yoga instructor, a barre instructor. I want you to know who she is. Beyond just the fitness, the way that she articulates, the way that she lives her life is such an incredible example of being a light worker. And I am so thrilled for all of us to get to listen to her today. Happy 10th episode, everybody. Continue spreading the light to one another. Ladies and gentlemen, Perfectly Imperfect with the extraordinary Adrienne Rabena. Ready, girl?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, come on.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay, we're improvising all day.
Totally.
Perfectly Imperfect. Okay, so for everybody watching, the way that I met Adrienne is once COVID happened and we were in quarantine. By the way, this is a doorway to nowhere. Like, I don't even know what it's in my parents' house. The quarantine happened and I needed some workouts, and I had always wanted to do barre workouts. Mm-hmm. So I looked up on Alo Moves, I looked up barre classes. And I was just like, let me just see what this class is, because I'm very particular with my workouts. I need my instructor to be a certain way, and I need to see how this goes.
Yep.
So I take Adrienne's class, you guys, and I was like, this girl is my spirit animal. Like, you had this perfect, for me, balance of spirituality, hard work, and also letting me know that it's okay for it to be hard, while also talking during some of the hardest workouts that I've ever done. And the way that you just made me feel like there isn't just one way to look. You right. Never, ever talked about what my body should look like. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to say all of this to preface that of all the teachers that you could take, I mean, there's hundreds of different to choose from. My little sister goes, that's who I've been taking from too. So we hadn't even talked about it. She responded as well. There is no better person to talk to about being perfectly imperfect than you, who is in this fitness industry and has such a beautiful approach to all of this. So now I'm done talking, and Adrienne, we just go to it. What I mean, just that's it. We're elbow hugs. We're virtual.
That's amazing. Like, that story is amazing, and I think it's such an honor that you found resonance in my classes, because I know that you're exposed to a lot of movement professionals and teachers, and I'm just so glad that the intentional way that I used language resonated. And it's taken me such a long time working through my own shit, working through my own stuff to arrive at this perspective of myself and so deeply believe in it that I want to ensure everything I do is in line and in resonance with that, you know?
Yes, and it is. Will you talk about your journey just in this industry, how you got started? You said your
Yeah.
mom was a ballerina.
Yes, yes. So my mom passed away when I was 15. And if she were alive today, she and I would probably be like the exact same person.
Wow.
Because she was an actress. She was a performer. She loved musical theater. She was a ballerina. She was constantly trying to find her outlet and her way of expressing herself. And then she was trying to be an actress and trying to be big in a theater capacity. In the small town I grew up in, it was like really kind of frowned upon. It was like, no, you should get a better job. You know, you need to be working in an office. You're never going to make any money doing this theater dance thing, right? And so she really struggled with finding pleasure and happiness. And she finally found her outlet through group fitness. I know, right? And so some of my earliest memories are doing step aerobics with her at the YMCA and watching her choreograph dancers and things like that. So bar just seems like it's so in my blood. It has a musical element to it. It has a performance element to it, being a teacher, and it has that athletic element to it. So I'm pretty much my mom, just, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Wow.
You know? Let me start when I went to college.
Hmm.
I think that was the big piece. When I was 18, I was going through a lot. My mom had passed away when I was 15. I was living with my grandparents. I was about to move to an entirely new state and start school. I really had no idea what that meant. And when I went to college, suddenly everyone around me, they came from these wealthy backgrounds. They were really beautiful people and they had amazing clothes. And I was just trying to fit in. And I was like, I want to fit in. And that was the beginning of a self-consciousness that I hadn't experienced.
Yes.
And that self-consciousness manifested into body image issues, eating issues, exercise dysfunction. And I remember the summer after my freshman year, and I just realized I had a problem. I was like, I think I have a problem with eating and with how I see myself, because I think about it all the time, constantly. And that started this journey of unraveling. And I was like, where does this come from? What is the origin that started this whole thread of me having these issues?
Yeah.
And as I peeled back the layers, I was like, oh, I've been getting this message since I was a little girl, like little girl, like 8, 9, 10, that there's this very narrow path to beauty. And that path can be, you're thin, you're able-bodied, you're light-skinned, right? And that's the path. And so since college, I've been uprooting that learning. And because we live in a world where we're constantly still told these things,
Yep.
even in just innocent ways, you know, hanging out with family, and your family is like, I can't eat that because I feel fat, or I'm trying to get my skin lighter, or whatever it might be. So it's a constant unfolding and unpeeling. And that journey led me deeper into my body and interest in my body. And it was more a curiosity of like, okay, how do I do this fitness, wellness, health thing without also subscribing to this limited perspective of what's beautiful?
Whoa, Adrienne, that is articulated so brilliantly. Yes.
Right? Because a lot of times what we see in the industry still now today, and what I did for the beginning of my journey, was I let the two run parallel, where it's like, I love my body because I'm using these tools to make it look like what's socially accepted.
Wow.
right? And then it's like, oh, like I found all this love for my body through yoga or through cleansing or whatever. But really, the love is conditional. So I was running like this parallel where I like had this narrative of body empowerment and affirmation and positivity, but then my actions were keeping the constructs alive, right? It wasn't until 3 or 4 years ago where I really started to get into the yoga philosophy that I I truly began to understand what embodiment means, and this concept of perfectly imperfect took on a whole new meaning for me, because embodiment, let's start there.
Yep.
Embodiment is a term that people throw around, and rarely do we really try to tease out what that actually means.
Yep.
And I had an incredible teacher, Tara Judell and Scott Lyons, I practiced with. They created embodied flow practice that's rooted in somatic therapy.
Wow.
So essentially, what they would do is teach us on an experiential level what it feels like to inhabit our whole bodies. So, what it feels like to inhabit and feel and understand the quality and the texture and the resonance of your bones, or of the fluids running through your body.
Wow.
Or of your skin. And when I start to fully embody myself in a 3-dimensional capacity, I felt this new sense of presence that I had never felt before. And that just blew open my world when it came to fitness and health and wellness. Because suddenly my body wasn't this external thing.
Yeah.
Like often we have ideas what our body should be able to do or what things should be able to feel like, but it's our brain imposing the idea on our body instead of our bodies communicating and our brain responding.
Yes. Especially when we learn these things, we often learn from the outside in, and we see what the ideas of what you're supposed to look like. The perfect. There's one way to look, one way to be. I love this experiential therapy almost that's to then have gratitude for what your bones are doing for you and your muscles. Your perfectly imperfect body. This is what you were created to do, not what this person is created to do, and this person is created to do.
Yeah, and even just in your language, there was embodiment in your language. That's something that I teach differently than a lot of fitness teachers. A lot of fitness teachers will say, lift that arm to the sky, lift those hips, move the shoulders. And one simple way to reclaim our bodies as an instructor is to use your. So lift your hand to the sky, twist your ribs to the left. So it's the subconscious way that we start to reclaim and say, yes, this is mine.
That makes me so emotional. The messaging that we've been hearing, and especially, look, we can speak only from the female experience.
Yeah.
That our messaging has been very much centered around what we should be, what we should look like, all the shoulds, which I want that word removed from from our
life. One of my friends would say, stop shitting on yourself.
Stop shitting on yourself. Absolutely. You're shitting on the situation. Actual definition of being perfect, which but the actual definition, I'll try and say this without judgment, is to be free from any flaw or defect in condition or quality. And then it said faultless.
Faultless.
And I'm like, where's that? You show me where that is. Then the second, being imperfect. The first definition of imperfect is not perfect. It was like not perfect. And then it says faulty or incomplete.
Oh.
And so like, wow, right? There's so much to unpack there.
Okay, the first thought is, well, who wrote the definition?
Amen.
Like, we have to ask that question of who is the author of what we're subscribing to. language is so powerful, which is why I love these light lessons, because it shapes the way that we see. It's a very subtle layer that permeates all of our deeper layers and then manifests through our being. So how we understand language and what we mean when we say things is really important. This perfectly imperfect, to me, it represents the polarity of being. Just like in the yin and the yang, you can't have the light without the dark.
Yep.
The light defines the dark defines the light. And I think about that as the same thing for human beings. The only way to experience perfection within ourselves is through the imperfection. Only with both can we be absolutely whole. And so then we have to ask ourselves, what is perfect? And who is writing or defining perfect? So this is where my yoga practice really kind of blew my mind when I started to think about the way that the universe does everything. So I have to zoom out for a second and then I'll zoom back in.
Yeah.
In my yoga studies, what I learned is that the microcosm is the macrocosm in a condensed form. It's similar to how if you take a leaf off of a tree, the leaf contains the entire imprint of the whole tree, right? Yeah. So the leaf has everything that the tree has. And if you were to take a little twig, the twig looks just like the tree, just much smaller. Yeah. So the universe does this, and it has these waves of what it represents and what it does and everything that happens in the universe, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and comes into these little drops and these little pixels. And so we are humans, and we are the universe embodied. Everything that nature does, it does with intention. And so if we're looking at a tree or a bundle of puppies, I think my dog barked right on cue, and we saw like, okay, these collections of trees, some are growing this way and some are growing this way and some are growing this way because they're all adapting. They're adapting to survive. And then we see the puppies, and we have the one that, like my recent puppy's little litter, she was the only one with short hair and a caramel color. Her brother had like fuzzy hair and black floppy ears. And then there was one that just looked super shaggy. He had these like whiskers like growing in all these awkward ways. And all of them were amazing. And one wasn't better than the other. They all had just decided to adapt in a different way. So when we think of perfect, it's like, it's impossible that we're not already perfect.
100%. Yes. Say that again. It is impossible
that we're not already perfect, because there's no possible way we can be different than how we are right this very moment. There's no other way. Otherwise, we would have done another way.
That's right. And can you imagine looking at that litter of puppies, of completely different puppies, each perfect in their own way, each imperfect in their own way, and going, that's not perfect. That's not right. Perfection is subjective. You know, my perfectly imperfect card, I made sure I put a shell. Shells could be more imperfect if you so choose, or perfect if you so choose. Can you imagine defining something by you're imperfect, I'm not interested? It's actually more than I'm not interested. You're imperfect, therefore you have no purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, therefore I must not be on purpose. There must have been a mistake, I think, is what we think so much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Sometimes we see ourselves as so individual. And I think that's where a lot of the suffering comes from, and a lot of the perfectionism comes from, because it's only when we see ourselves in context of the whole that we feel how much we absolutely influence in positive ways everything around us. And so if we're taking ourselves individually and we're comparing ourselves, just for example, me and my husband, if we were to take ourselves as individuals and compare ourselves, I'm the person who's loud and likes to be on camera, talks a lot. And if he were always trying to be me, we would both miss out on his ability to be steady, to be supportive, to understand things on a deeper layer than I can. So it's only with each other and in context that we understand the perfection of our network. And when we're in this fitness culture, it's like, you need to look like this one person, or you need to get your arms toned, or this strong, or whatever. But it is in the diversity. It is the diversity itself of body types, bone structure, of digestions, of all of that. It's in that diversity that creates the whole. And the whole is what's perfect.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yes. If we are trying to reframe and restructure what this perfectionism is and this one body and this one idea, especially with what you do for a living.
Yeah.
What is the new goal? What would you want the new messaging to be? Where are you trying to take this?
Oh, I love that question. I think the goal is what I call body affirmation. And this is different from body positivity.
Okay.
Body positivity is kind of imposing on your body a sense of lightness and positivity and love when you might not feel that way consistently, especially. Like if your body's failing you, it's okay to be upset about that, right? But instead of body positive, using the term body affirming, which simply means that we start to practice appreciating our ability to be and to feel. And how we do that through fitness is really draw awareness to the feeling that we're experiencing or we're co-sharing. So maybe that's what you pick up on when I'm teaching and I'm like, okay, right now you might be feeling this happening, or here's what's happening now. Or I might say like, oh, I'm sweating, right?
Yes.
And these are just these affirmations of my body is moving, I am alive, my cells are working. When we start to think of our body like that,
yes,
then our body becomes a vessel of intuition. It informs us of things that are off the mat, right?
Yep.
It's like we'll be sitting there and we'll be having a conversation and something feels off. And instead of pushing through it, like some fitness tells you, push through it, ignore, like go through, right? Instead of pushing through it, we just recognize, oh, my stomach feels weird. My hands are getting clammy. I'm feeling more like I'm in my back body and I'm not fully present anymore. What's going on? So I think our fitness can do that for us.
Yeah.
It can do all the amazing health benefits that come along with it. Strengthen our bones, increase our metabolism, keep us younger, longer, keep our joints integrated. It can do all that amazing structural things, but it also can help us be more human, which is what I'm interested in.
I just want to affirm too that is what I also responded to, and anybody who I hope now will also come and take Adrienne's classes and just see what this is and have this experience, because it's beyond just fitness. It's brilliant. Something that I love that you do is that you'll call out, my legs are shaking, you'll say, I'm shaking, and that helps the student also go, it's okay that I'm shaking. And I talk about this in my industry. It's okay to be nervous, but don't get nervous about being nervous. And that happens as we work out too. That's such a beautiful affirmation too, that's letting us know exactly what you said, that I'm human, I think that's important to say.
Oh, that's so important. We have a little term for that. We call it giving permission. The instructor has a lot of power, and we as students really want to surrender our power to the instructor because we trust the instructor, right?
Yes.
And what I hope to do through my teaching and through giving permission like I'm shaking, you might be shaking here as well. That's just like giving a permission to be human, to be real. What I hope to do by that is shift the power from me as an instructor to the student, so that the student starts to take ownership of their experience. And so instead of it feeling like I'm someone telling you what to do, we are joining together and deciding together to do this and to be with each other through this, you know?
Love that. That's why I feel connected to you, because I've joined. We're joined. We're doing this together. Girl, girl,
in it.
doing this with me, and you didn't even know. We in it. I quickly just want to say my journey of yoga actually started, I did Bikram yoga for 10 years, which now
10 years.
10 years of Bikram. Unfortunate that the guy is literally has
The
all
worst.
the worst. So hot yoga. But why I love doing the same 26 postures over and over and over is because then you have something to work towards.
Yeah.
And you know, in the couple of poses where you're holding them for a minute and you're trying not to fall out. I did have an instructor one time say it's okay to fall out, because it lets the other people around you know that it's okay to fall. Right. And I've never forgotten that. And isn't that so good? That's like, we look at those in the fitness industry, they're perfect, they don't have anything wrong. People on stage too, they're perfect, nothing goes. But the human qualities of being perfectly imperfect, and the times that we fall down or we shake or any of these things that we think, oh, that would never happen, that gives exactly permission to know that it's more than okay, is how it goes.
It's more than okay. I mean, a great thing about being American is that we're very independent thinking. We also are very willing to listen to authority. And I think that that microcosm, macrocosm idea again, when that instructor told you, like, it's okay to fall out, not only did she do that for you, but she did that for everyone you lead. Yeah. So now you are leading by passing the power on and passing the self-acceptance and the humanness on. We're running a barre teacher training, and part of the reason that we wanted to get this method out there was we wanted the leaders of these fitness industries to start to empower people to embrace their humanness and reduce their stress and have all the juicy goodness of working out without the desire and suffering.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
You know, like that, there's so much suffering that can go into exercising that it can be a conduit for self-loathing.
Totally. Mental suffering too.
Yes, totally. And that was something, like, one of my most profound things that I learned through my yoga studies was to completely forget the goal. That it's only when we are absolutely okay with being not special and mediocre and average, like absolutely okay, like totally taking that in. It took me a long ass time to work through that. But when we totally are okay with that, then we are so fully ourselves that we give permission to everyone be themselves, and our superpowers come out. Oof. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because again, our perfection lies in our unique individualities and the way that we contribute. It's like an orchestra of different sounds. And, you know, a violin on its own is beautiful. Cello on its own is beautiful. Viola, gorgeous. But when you put them together, that's where the magic happens. And the same is true for people.
Oh my God, that is just, this is like taking us to church. I can't. Will you give us, in our marination station for this week, this is the station that we come to marinate in, one assignment that you would like to task us with, anything around being perfectly imperfect?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I say that the path to embracing our true innate wholeness and perfection, because it's impossible to not be perfect. The path to that starts with embodiment. So the assignment is to go through your week and just start to vocalize what you feel when you notice it. So it might be like you smell the dinner cooking and you're like, oh, I feel myself salivating and I feel my stomach starting to grumble. So that's awesome. Or it might be, like someone you care about, your friend or your sister or your partner says like, hey, whoa, come look at this hummingbird. And you get this little sprinkle of like tingles of excitement in the back of your head or something. And just vocalizing it helps us to start to notice these subtleties within ourselves that make being alive so very rich and full and purposeful.
Oh my God, Adrienne, that is literally, okay, so I'll start. I'm going to embody right now what's happening. My heart, I feel my heart just alive and fluttering, and I feel such gratitude. I'm like, oh, thanks, heart, you're there doing your job. Just because you have given such authentic conversation and such honesty and vulnerability, and just thank you so much for the human that you are and what you're giving to the world, and for taking this time for all these light workers that are listening to you. I'm so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you. I'm feeling like a big like rush of happiness, like my head's gonna explode with happiness. So
thank you so much for being here with us this week and sharing yourself and your story. And everybody, please check out Adrienne. I'm going to put all the links in the description box below so that you can check her out. And that if anybody has been wanting to work out from your home during this time while we are isolated, then I can't say enough amazing things about what Adrienne is offering. So thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. And I'll see everyone probably right here in this room where we work out every Saturday morning.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yay!